university. So they really don't understand how architectural learning happens. So they think
it's
like
very
it is so
complicated,
different.
actually.
Why? Yeah, why you have to invite practicing architects to when you have good teachers. But definitely, the experience of an architect, the way he takes up the project and handles it, because a project is not like in 6 months, like a semester, isn't it? It's like goes on for 1.5 years, 2 years. So a architect's professional practicing architect, his experience with the project gives a lot of insight into how design happens, and that gives your talk actually opens up many things for the students. So that is how you're all important for us. So we have been trying doing this. So, and whenever if you're dropping in Hyderabad for any reason, please be our guest. Geetam is a very good host. So definitely be our guest. Yeah.
Sure, shall we start the session? We have another, actually I got a contact also, Usha Mishra. She was keen to join the webinar, so we have her also as well. From Bangalore.
Good. Just 2 minutes more. All right.
Yes.
I think we have 25, 27. So let us touch 30.
Yeah, I actually shared the link with some of my own contacts, so probably they might also be joining. I'm not so sure, but let's see.
Good. No, if they join, they get to know what this platform is about. So it becomes easy for us to talk to them. Yeah,
but just to let you know a bit about what I exactly do. It's mostly not only architecture. So I constantly go back and forth between architecture, a little bit of artwork, and some programming here and there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see what students are going to make out of it. It's a lot of mixture of different fields. Yeah. But let's see.
No, architecture is like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you need a form that you cannot do it in whatever is available, you have to do programming also.
Exactly. But also we are living in a very exciting time now with all these AI tools and all that. It's all coming together. So
yeah. 1 month back, we had an architect who is very good at watercolor. So he came to our campus and he did a 2 days workshop on watercolor. It was wonderful. Like his watercolor renderings adorn one of the best commercial and hotels. So he's very, very talented. He's doing more watercolor than architecture.
Oh, okay. Very interesting.
So he was available. So he came to campus and he was with the students for 2 days and he trained them. So it was a good experience for the students. A different perspective of how architect actually looks at art.
Yeah. Also in my master's, they were teaching many different techniques of how to make different patterns. So one of the guys, he was also doing all these watercolors in different paper materials. So when he makes a line, and he was researching about the pattern it makes on the paper. So based on that pattern, he was like taking all the design elements. It was very interesting how he approached it.
Yeah. So finally, in nature, whatever happens, you can actually convert it into mathematics. This is what it seems. And all these efforts, right? All these efforts, so that you can actually understand nature. If you understand how these patterns, the mathematics of the patterns, then it becomes easy for you to explore them, what is happening in the nature. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So when I first used Excel, say 30 years back, And when I started using the regression analysis to fit the curves, it was so amazing that manually, if I had to do the same regression analysis, it will take me a week, 2 weeks. But Excel, it does it in say a minute or two. So like getting a formula of a curve, the pattern, no, it was very interesting. So definitely a natural pattern. If you figure it out, then it is very exciting.
And we also came a long way from that time. So remember when I did bachelor's, there were like so less tools, and mostly I did those for like my own hobby and animation. And right now, every architect is using those animation tools.
Yes. Parametric models, it was like a hell when we used to try, but now so many softwares are available, so it has become so easy.
Yeah.
And any parametric surface is like breaking it into a pattern. That's all, which repeats itself. So that concept itself, when you understand that, it becomes very, very revealing, and gives you a lot of inspiration to work.
The other day, another friend of mine was also showing with this Chat GPT. I don't know if you heard this new tool.
Okay.
Using that, you don't need to write codes anymore. You don't need to write grasshopper definition. You ask it, and it gives you the definition, and you just use that. I never used it, but it was really interesting to see how it happens.
Yeah. No, it will happen. Programming will become little more, intuitive, and humans, everyone would be able to program. It will happen. It will take some time, but everyone will be able to program whatever they want. Definitely it will happen. Yeah. Snigdha, I think it's good to go. We have 32.
Yes, sir. Many people are still on the way to join, but we will start the session now.
Yeah.
Very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. I, Assistant Professor Snigdha Roy, welcome you to Geetham School of Architecture webinar series 2022-23 on the topic of successful career in architecture, organized by both Geetham School of Architecture, Hyderabad and Visakhapatnam campus for aspiring students of architecture and all the mentors and guardians and all the practicing architects. So this series is held every alternate week or maybe every week on Saturday, where we invite all our guest speakers, national and international, worldwide, India or across worldwide, to share their journey on their journey of their successful career in architecture and brief all our students and address. So I would invite I would be very glad that everyone has joined, as it was very important and it's benefited for all the students. So welcome to all the participants. Professor G. Sunil Kumar sir, Director of Geetham School of Architecture, all assistant professor, associate professors, and yes, it's now the time to introduce our guest speaker, today's guest speaker, all the way from Berlin, Germany. So I will give a brief introduction about our guest speaker. So, so we welcome architect Ritayan Rath, who is an architect, technical artist, computation designer based in Berlin and Germany. So architect Ritayan Rath has done his bachelor's in architecture from College of Engineering and Technology, Bhubaneswar, Odisha, India, and master's of arts in advanced architecture and design from Germany, Frankfurt, Germany. So architect Ritayan's keen interest is in technology and design, and he believes in attempting to solve the problems with interdisciplinary approach, which makes him actually stand out from everything. And his ability to grasp all the new trends in construction, architecture, art design, whether it's gaming, technology, and computation, which allows him to grow and expand his skill. And he has also gathered his expertise previously in many architectural firms, ad agencies, where he has worked in very diverse projects involving industries such as gastronomy, automobile, hospitality, design and construction, and also many real-time visualizations. He also expresses himself very well with, he's an expert in 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, and 4-dimensional design, where he expresses himself as a real-time visualization, virtual reality, and yes, coming up, he has worked on many projects as with companies, many reputed companies like Albaker Architects, 3 Deluxe, Mutabor, and also his work has got many parametric works and architectural concepts. 3D design has been showcased in many exhibitions. So I would, we are really thankful to you, sir, for being accepting our invitation and taking out your time from this busy schedule and being a part of this webinar as our guest speaker. And I'm really thankful to Alkananda Dash, Assistant Professor Dash Mohapatra, for suggesting your name. And we are really glad to have you on board. Over to you, sir. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, welcome, Ritayan.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the great introduction. I'll just move the screen to my second one.
Yes, sir. I have made you the co-host. You will be able to share your screen.
Okay. One moment. So, good afternoon, everyone. As you might have noticed that I stand in the intersection in these fields, experience design, scripting, industrial design, visual design, gaming. And always my approach is to bring it all together in architecture. So mostly I'm going to keep all this presentation focused in architecture. So thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to speak among you. And thanks to all the staff members and everyone to organize this international webinar. I don't know about my career, if it is a success or not, but you can make of it in the end of the presentation what it is. What I'm going to do is tell you the story of my journey, how I started, and some of the stories regarding my experiences, etc., etc. So my journey has 5 parts. The first one is mostly going to be like an origin story, where I come from and how I got into architecture. The second one is mostly regarding my bachelor's and master's. And the third one is my first experiences in Germany and abroad. And the fourth is some other experiences in Munich and Hamburg. And the fifth one is mostly what I learned after pandemic. So mostly I'm going to talk about AI tools and some metaverse and some artworks, etc. I will keep that a little bit more dynamic. So I'm born in 1987 in Rengali in Orissa. And that's me saying my first word to the world.
Yeah, you're not sharing your screen, Ritayan.
Sorry?
Your screen is not shared. We are only seeing you. Yeah.
Really? It says that it is sharing.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are seeing your camera. We are actually looking at you.
Oh, just 1 second.
Yeah, no. Please.
You see it now?
Yes, yeah.
So, I think I already talked about all this. I'm born in Rengali in Orissa, and that's me. My first word to the world. That's me with my grandparents, and he was the chief engineer in Rengali project, dam project. And this is me, my brother, and my parents, and enjoying the company of each other. And my parents, we lived in the border of Jharkhand and Orissa. So we were mostly based in Kiriburu, Meghatuburu, Bolani. And my first schooling was in Barbil. It's, one moment. My first schooling was here, my standard 1. And I think in Kiriburu, we stayed 10 years, and Meghatuburu probably like 2 years or something like this. And also Bolani 2.5 years. And we were like constantly moving between these areas. And my childhood was quite dominated by graphic novels first, and then it transitioned into video games. These were my first kind of like anatomy trainers. And when my parents started restricting us, me and my brother, from these because we were not studying enough, we started drawing these characters and make trading cards out of it, using carbon paper or tracing first. And after a few months, we were quite okay to draw superheroes and gods and all that. I was also quite into anime and the mythologies, and I was quite good in sports, in volleyball and basketball, etc. And in that time, it was quite interesting for me because Toy Story was released in 1995, I guess, and that sort of gave me what could be possible with 3D softwares. It was very easy for me to understand, okay, how the animation works from comic books to cartoon. It was mostly like hand-drawn. But once the 3D softwares, the 3D cartoons, they were like introduced, it was very interesting for me to find out how they do it. And these are some of my early artworks. And after my 10th, we moved to Rourkela, Orissa, away from Jharkhand. And it was a little bit interesting experience because back in the days, in my previous cities, Hindi was the most dominant language. And once I moved to Rourkela, English became more dominant in the schools. And it was a little bit complicated to talk at times in the beginning. I was quite okay with English, but sometimes when you change the location, it was a little bit weird. So what I realized is like, once you start understanding the common interests and the common problems you have, your breath turns into words. So most of us, we were like really struggling with C++ language. Why I'm talking about C++ is because like it has a lot of importance later in my life. This is the only subject I think I scored 0 at one point. And then I think everyone starts to notice, okay, this guy needs to improve in this field. So my parents decided to give me like a tuition and like extra courses in programming, etc. And in the end of +2, I kind of excelled, and I got the logic, how the programming and the class and objects, different functions, and how to call a command. And I got the logic, and I was getting quite good in programming in +2. And during that time, I think many of my dad's friends, they noticed that me and my brother were quite interested in animation and some sketching and these things. So they introduced us to the old version of Macromedia Flash. I don't know if you know these softwares. And it's kind of like a very 2D software, and you make framed animations with stick figures and stuff like that. And we were making a lot of doodles using these, and slowly we transitioned into 3ds Max. I think one of my brother's friend somehow got his hands into this 3ds Max, and he gave it to us. Another friend gave it to me, like Lightwave 3D, and then we started moving to ZBrush, and then I think we were doodling a lot in ZBrush, and we were failing really bad with character modeling and design, whatever we want to do. And someone told us that Cinema 4D has like by default characters. So we decided to move to Cinema 4D. So that was like kind of my first software, or like at the beginning of my digital age. After my +2 exam, I wanted to go in the direction of animation, game design, or IT, but I was kind of like always meeting a dead wall when asking for advices in these directions. So there weren't also many universities in India who offered courses for the first two. And my maternal grandfather and other relatives were pushing for civil engineering or architecture, because everyone thought if you are good with sketches, you are going to be good in architecture. And everyone thought that I wanted to do what I wanted to do was like mostly just a hobby and not like a proper discipline to make a living. So in one of the newspaper advertisement, I found that in third year architecture in CET, they're going to teach me animation tools and 3D modeling and like walkthroughs, etc. So I decided to join CET. So I moved to Bhubaneswar in 2005, and I started my bachelor's in CET. I met like a lot of interesting people. These are my classmates back then. And yeah, surprisingly, in the first year, they had C programming. And I was like quite good already at that time. And most of my batchmates, they had no idea what this is about. So I was, when I was scoring like almost 80% or 90%, and everyone was like having backlogs in C programming. So I used to help them out. But at that time, it felt a little bit misplaced, because I also thought like, how is C programming going to help me in architecture? It didn't fit so well. And I was thinking they made a mistake in the syllabus, and I was very thankful that they made this mistake. And at the same time, ragging was also going on as well in the hostel and the university. Many thought at that time ragging, when done right, it brings students together in the same batch together. In a way, they were like quite right in this. These are some of my sketches I did for Zonasas, and I didn't participate anything in first year. I joined in second year onwards in Zonasas and tech fests, etc. And after third year, it became kind of like very effortless to win visual communication. And Zonasa itself, we were like champions for like 4 or 5 years or something, and it was very, very easy to win the trophies and all that. We were getting quite good. And in general, the other subjects didn't really get my attention. I thought maybe it was very easy, or like it didn't hook me up. I was not very interested so much in the other subjects. I was okay with that. I was not so bad. So in second year, I decided to join Maya and Photoshop class. It was not in the university, it was separate. My parents were not very happy about that. They were thinking I will divert myself from architecture, but luckily that didn't happen. And these are some of the sheets that we did in second year. And this is my first matte painting using Photoshop, like the really old version of Photoshop. Now you can do magic in Photoshop, but back then not everything was like possible, but I'm still proud of some of the details. And then third year came, and this is what I was waiting for the first 2 years. And surprisingly, my lectures, they decided to change the subject I was waiting for. It was no more the animation tools or anything. They decided to make it a CAD lab. And I was super disappointed about that. And I was thinking, okay, this is what I joined here for. I wasted two years of my life. And I was so demotivated. I didn't want to continue so much. And I was thinking of maybe quitting or like start preparing for masters. I didn't want to continue anymore. And in this part of the story, it's not really complete without mentioning its side arc. So one of my first year friends, Rajiv, who vanished after the first semester. And most of us, we were thinking he vanished because he couldn't perform so well, because he's born without fingers. He doesn't have any fingers. And then suddenly, he showed up when I was like second year, end of second year or something. And he reappeared when I was like, I was in the dire moment. I was like thinking I should quit, and he joined back. And I was thinking, why did he do that? But it was really surprising to see like how he performed. It was like a new light. In the first year, we were helping him out like to draw and to make like physical models and to make like basic drawings and sketches. And when he came back, he packed his punch so hard, and most of his models were so detailed that you would think that it's made in laser cutting machines or something, but he did it all by his hands, and it baffled the best out of us. And he was producing work better than most of us with all our 10 fingers intact. He packed his fist hard. And at the same time, my grandfather helped me a lot. He said that you have given me a pencil to draw, a pen to write, a brush to paint, a chisel to sculpt, and a tongue to speak. I will feel guilty in the end of my life if I don't use them properly. So I was thinking, and many of my friends and other seniors were saying, eventually, even if I wasn't so interested in architecture, I managed to get some skills in the first couple of years. So I became sort of good in design, kind of good in like drafting and basic things. So they were saying like, okay, I should continue 2 more years and just get done with it and do your best, whatever time I've left. I was in 3rd year. It was like, I had 2 more years to finish. And the next year was about internship. So I didn't have any design projects. I didn't have a portfolio. So I decided to give everything I have. So in the 6th semester, we had working drawings. And we were supposed to present like minimum 15 sheets of an apartment building, apartment design that we did the semester before. And most of my colleagues, they didn't want to do more than like 8 or 12. And I was thinking, me and my friends, we decided to do 25. And mostly because we were like, we wanted to produce at this moment, and it was like coming to an end. And it kind of like upsetted many of my friends that we didn't really go with them. They're still upset with me sometimes about that, but it's okay. And I decided to do like, in the end, I produced 20 sheets, and my friend Janardhan, he did 24. And thanks to our seniors who lended us their tools when we needed it the most. And that was my end of 3rd year. And I had at least one thing to show in my internship. And in 4th year, we couldn't make it to NASA. And we were also like not so happy about it because most of our final exams were always coinciding with the dates of the NASA, and it was never happening. So me and 2 other misfits, Janardhan and Sai, we decided to do Transparence 2009. And luckily, we won the zonal level, and we wanted to win the national as well. And it was about like an iconic building in Mumbai for World Trade Center. And we took the inspiration from the rising sun, but we called it Omega. Omega means the sunset in Greek. So that was the inspiration. And we wanted to make it look like a bit like a waveform. So these are a couple of sheets. I'm not going to go into the details of it. These are like some facade studies and structural analysis and all that. And this is all the 3 misfits of us. And we were like teammates for life, I guess. And after that, I started working a couple of years in Bhubaneswar, no, 1 year, I think, 1.5 years in Pyramid 99. I was kind of switching every now and then. I was not very happy with the projects I was working on so much. And I was thinking like most of my skills are kind of like underutilized. So I started thinking about, should I go in the direction of animation or should I still stick to architecture? And very soon, I kind of realized I started liking architecture, even though I didn't start liking when I joined 5 years before. And it sort of like hooked me. Some concepts I really liked and some architects and designers, I really wanted to learn more about it. So I decided to go to Staedelschule architecture class in Frankfurt. It was quite an interesting experience. They were quite famous among certain architectural societies like SciArc and architectural associations. We were having like some common workshops, etc. And they were mostly teaching about critical thinking, problem solving through design. and they taught us about smart materials and its architectural implications, parametric designs, organic forms, and topologies, etc. It was fascinating to use wood workshops, 3D printing, and all these new technologies. And many of these parametric tools were heavily using basics of C++ programming. And this is when I thought, okay, if they didn't remind me in bachelor's that C programming I should keep a practice of, I wouldn't have done this here. It's like I had a little bit of touch and I knew how to approach some of the problems I faced in this one. And I was quite quick to grasp all this. So this is all my classmates. And as you can see, I was quite unprepared for the weather. Everyone was dressed in black and I was the only one with white. And this is my first project with the student project. And it was about the workshops of smart materials. And what we were supposed to do is design a smart kitchen. And they provided us like a bunch of smart materials, and we were supposed to research about the smartness of materials as well, like wood, paper, and other materials, how they perform with the influence of electricity, heat, and cold. And some of them, they were bending. When you push the steam into it, they bend and they allow the steam to pass through. So these were some of the basic experiments we did. And the idea behind this one is we did this smart kitchen. And this is the platform which you use for cooking and all that. And when you're cooking, the steam goes up. And here we have like some veneers, and it opens up. And here we have this metal plate. And back then in Germany, it was negative temperature outside. So this is the balcony we have. And this is the existing wash. And this plate is connected to negative temperature, and it was very easy to condense all the steam on this, and we didn't need another platform to collect the water. So because of this slope, the steam was passing through, and there is another container here, and through this, it goes to water all these plants. So that was the basic idea. And here we had this parametric wall, and it has like certain holes, as you can see here. And these holes were like having these plastic materials which opens once you approach. So it's connected with these wires and motors and some smart wires. So that detects your presence or your shadow, and it opens when you approach. And you collect the plants from the balcony, you take it from here, and you cook. So these are some pictures of how we built it. So mostly the first, of course, was the frame of the structure, and then we made the wooden panels. And the most complicated was this part, because this has to be bent, and it is also like it has like this cantilever. Bend and cantilever is kind of like really complicated to do because it's made out of wood, and you have to constantly put hot water and hot steam and bend a little bit. And it has to go very slow. It's a pretty slow process. I think in total, it took like maybe 5 or 6 people and 2 or 3 days to do the entire bending process. And that I graduated from my master's in 2013, and it went on very well. And back then, Europe was having this financial crisis of 2009, and the construction sector was also having a pretty bad impact from that. And as we all know, I think the construction, whatever happens in construction, it takes really a long time to recover from this impact. So sometimes, if you are lucky, things don't turn up the way you expect. So after my graduation, I got an opportunity to work as an architect. At that time, I think that didn't work out so well because my boss, he couldn't really pay my salary fully, and that contract turned into internship. And then I decided to quit the job after 3 months or something. And I was doing a lot of small jobs, like I was working for many film festivals, set designs, and some theater groups, etc. If you guys don't know about these two theater groups like Summer Web Festival and Antagon, you should check them up in Google. They are really, really crazy. They have like some performance arts, and they have like cool stage designs, etc. And I worked part-time in many bars and festivals, and I worked in restaurants, kitchen helper, and it was fun for a while. And I wouldn't suggest to do it for too long, because I think I did it for like maybe 1.5 years. And in the beginning, I was thinking it will take another 6 months to recover from this crisis, and I will finally join as a designer or an architect, but that didn't really happen. It went on for another couple of years. And at that time, I also did an exhibition. And what I did here exactly is, like, during my master's, I made a lot of physical models, and I had like maybe 50 or 60 of them. I started turning all of them into artworks. And this one, for example, the hand, it was my research model about the grounding condition of my thesis. And I didn't want to throw them away, so I put a hand in between, and it looked like something is coming out of the wall or something like that. So I managed to convince the curator of Ypsilon Cafe to exhibit my work. And these are some of the works from my aunt. And there is another exhibitor, I think Ina, she also exhibited with us. And exactly when I was thinking of leaving Europe, I got an opportunity from 3D Lux to help them out in some sculptural furnitures that they were building in Sharjah, which is not so far from Dubai. And this is like a island in the middle of Sharjah. And in the beginning, it was mostly like a barren island. It had like many different kinds of plants. And we were supposed to populate it with some design elements. So here we had this butterfly pavilions and a literature pavilion and a couple of other pavilions scattered around, and some sculptural furnitures and art projects from different artists. It was all supposed to be organized around this island. So this is the first furniture I did. So the idea here was to make it look or appear as light as possible. So this is how the basic concept was. It should be looking more like a handkerchief or like a serviette or like a paper, which is barely touching the ground. It should give the feeling of anti-gravity, or like a form that is not under the influence of gravitational forces. And as you can see, we produced it in a couple of prints. This is like in black and white barcode kind of mishmash of all together. And this is more like the 3D Lux pattern. This is their like a signature pattern. The second object we did was this planter box. So it's quite simple. The top is flat, and it has these columns that is acting as a support for the planter boxes. And the last one is this lounge sofa. In the beginning, we wanted to build like 9 of them, but I think we were like underestimating how the finances would go. So the final design, the cost estimate was like 75,000 in the beginning. And I think my boss was very afraid that this is costing more than the price of the cost of a residence building. It shouldn't be like that. It's just a furniture, and we started to like reduce the design elements and the patterns and in general everything, and it had to be like a bit more buildable. So I used some parametric tools and some mostly like Rhino and a couple of other things. And as you can see, we wanted to go very fluid about it. And as this picture shows, like this is not just one piece. We had smaller furnitures. In the beginning, that it was a set of 5, but we had to reduce it to 3. And this table here is like a coffee table, and we had like another smaller sofa, which is kind of like movable. This is like the big one is static, and the other ones are like moving around it. And this is the pattern modules and how it is going to be populated around the surfaces of the furniture. And as it is depicted here, we had this one single direction, and this is the table here. And this is the sitting area, these two. And this is looking in two opposite directions. And here we had two or three other furnitures, like a one table and another moving sofa and another table here and one more sofa here. But I think that didn't really happen in the end. And these are some of the construction drawings and elevations. And this is how it looked when it was built. And the back here, this one is the butterfly pavilion, which I showed in the beginning. And that was my end of era in Germany. Then I decided to move to Qatar for my next adventures. And these are my colleagues. This is Yusuf and Peter. They were the owners of the company. And these are all my teammates and good friends, etc. So next is Doha Life. It was a pretty interesting project, mostly because I joined the team when it was already 5 years in development. It was running for a really, really, really long time, and for good reason, because Qatar is a very close-minded society in a way, because they didn't want to go too wild in terms of what they are going to offer to the society or in the site. My client, he didn't want to build boundary walls, and also he didn't want to make it look very Islamic. But the ministries and the authorities in general, they were like pushing for like making it very, very traditional. They didn't want to go any futuristic. So the brief of Doha Life is a 5-star design hotel and a boutique retail development in Doha. The project is located close to Doha International Airport with good proximity to the central district that is undergoing large-scale redevelopment. The surrounding communities welcomed inside into the development, specifically residents from the central district, and the workforce populating the commercial building along the airport road. The large outdoor public areas serve also the community by providing an open and natural space to gather. So this is the location of the site and the dimensions. And as you could, that here is the site here, and this is the basic access roads. So this is where the problem sort of starts to gain the highlight. So this is the site, and as you can see, all the neighboring buildings, they had like really tall walls. They were like barricading themselves from the outside world, and we were also expected to do that. But I think my client, neither the designers nor the architects wanted to do that, and I guess also the population, they wanted a bit more open environment. They lived in these places because it was given to them, but it's not like they wanted that. So we wanted to have the influence of the neighbors into the sites. We wanted to guide them into the building, into the system we were designing. And these are some of the locations of some of the similar hotels, 5-star, 3 stars, and 2 stars in general. And as you can see, Doha is a very hotel city. There are lots of hotels. There are more hotels than apartments, I think. And this is the general volumetric studies. And we started with the general offset. And this is like mostly the influence line. And we didn't want to create any walls. So the lower part of the building had to be very organic. It shouldn't seem like a wall. We didn't want to barricade. We wanted to make people come inside. We called it the urban void. So mostly the void is going to be filled by the local population and different activities or like some hangout spaces, etc. And the best way to drive people inside is to have like 2 courtyards. We had like 2 huge courtyards. The first one is this one, and the second one for the people who are going to stay in the hotel. They are going to share this courtyard, and this is for like the common public, and this is the retail volume, and this is the entire hotel and partly restaurants and nightclubs, etc. These are some of the moments we designed, and mostly this diagram explains how we imagined different parts of the building and how we imagined the courtyards. And these plates are mostly the sections and how we wanted the volume to move around. We didn't want to go too random into it. So most of the program was in total 235 key 5-star hotel, and with 1,600 square meter spa and fitness center, rooftop infinity pool, 7 unique concept restaurants, 2 rooftop bars, exclusive nightclubs, and 700 square meter Sisha rooftop garden, 10,000 square meter GLA of boutique retail, conference and business facilities. So mostly the top floors, as you can see, this is all like hotel, and the last 2 floors are mostly for the public, for cafes and restaurants, nightclubs. And in the bottom, it's mostly restaurant, retail, and hangout areas, etc. So this is the view of the main courtyard. And that's from the lobby, which is sitting here. And from this lobby, you decide to go whether you want to go for the retail, for the shopping, or to the hotel area, which is in this side. And this is the basement. It's partly a parking space. This is the parking area, and this is like an empty space we design, and we wanted to give it to another company to design the interiors for the retails or shopping or whatever they want to propose. And this is also like retail areas here, and this is like the central corridor that joins everything. So back to the ground floor. So you enter the site from this side, yeah, and you are open to this landscape here. And once you come forward, you have like 2 options. You go up. You go up, that takes you to like the mezzanine floor, or you go enter the building through this one, which takes you to this retail kind of space. And once you go up, you are open to this floor. So this is how you go up. And that's the central courtyard here. And then you have this entrance to the main hotel lobby, which is here. And these are the concept restaurants here, some retail areas. And these are the core volumes which you use for going up the stairs, through the lift, and sometimes the toilets here, and also the core here. And the third core was here for the retail volume. And this is like level 2, mostly to show you guys how the hotel rooms were organized around the floor plan. And you come up the stairs and you end up in this location and that, and you start your journey from here and you go around. And this is your courtyard, and this is the second courtyard that you share with your hotel people. This is the level floor, pretty much the same. And that's the plan of the hotel rooms. And as you can see, we wanted to go very fluid in the forms. We wanted it not to be too comfortable, but comfortable enough for the people to stay and enjoy the stay. And here in this facade, it's most like open. This is like entirely like a window. And also this side, it's all windows, and you only have like metal frames, and in between you have curtains, etc., to block the lights. And also the idea was, you don't, when you go to, this is like directed for the tourists and like the business people. And we wanted them not to stay in the hotel for too long. And even if they are staying in the hotel, they should get a glimpse of the local culture. That's why we wanted to bring the locals and all these things into the central courtyard. We wanted them to mingle together and have like a bit of fun with each other. This is how the courtyards look, the basic section. As you can see, the basement is quite deep, and in general, in Doha, it's not always allowed to go deeper than 2, but we went like 4 or 5, and we were quite afraid that in the end of the basement we might find some oil or something. I think it was kind of like illegal to go 1 more floor down, but anyway, my boss wanted to go more, so we did that anyway. So this is the second section. I think this section shows you in this longitudinal direction. So this is the retail volume, and that's the hotel here. And this is mostly the basement. And this brings us to the last one in this project. This is the staircase that leads you to the night clubs and the swimming pools and the recreation in the rooftop, which is here. And that's the lounge view. And right after this project, I got a better offer. I thought at that time that it's a good one, so I decided to move back to Germany in Munich. So sometimes the offers that you receive and the promises that the companies make to you, it's not real. So if you are lucky, you will figure it out like within a month or in a couple of weeks, but more than a month or 2, it's a loser's game, I think. They promised me a lot of things, but it didn't really deliver. So mostly in that office, I worked in, my first project was like a brand architecture. This was my introduction to what brand architecture is. I had no idea at that time, but it was okay. And Messebau, it's in German. If I translate it in English, it's mostly like exhibition design, kiosk design, and large exhibition spaces. And they were also building a lot of residential apartments and single family residences, etc. But I was not that much interested in these projects. I was like finishing all these things pretty quick, and I had like plenty of free time, and most of the bosses, they were not even there in the office to guide you. So I decided to join the side projects or my side ventures, which I wanted to do for the last couple of years. So in Doha, I had this colleague, Ibrahim. So most of the time when we were like passing by his desk, everyone was thinking he's wasting his time and he's like watching series, he's playing games or something like that. And one day I passed by his desk and I saw that he's playing with Unreal Engine. And I was thinking, is he bunking like these project time, or because I was like in strict deadlines, and he was playing with Unreal Engine, and I was thinking, what are you doing? And he was saying like, and he said that he's trying to import some architectural models into this game engine, and that was my introduction. And I was thinking it's bullshit. So later on, I decided to figure out, okay, what this Unreal Engine is, and I started to play with it. And along with that, I also started experimenting with Kinect. Kinect is like a Xbox equipment. I don't know how many of you are gamers. I used to play like a lot of PS and Xbox, and that was kind of my one of my introduction to this equipment. And one of my friends showed me like how do you hack into these equipments and you use it for 3D scanning. So I was like inviting a lot of my friends to come to my studio, and I wanted to scan them. I was begging them to come to my studio. Okay, I need to do this. I want to learn it. And right now, if you want to scan something, it's really easy. But back in the days, you have this big machine, which always needed to be connected to a laptop or a computer, and you have to move with these equipments. One hand Kinect, another hand laptop, and you move around the objects to 3D scan all these people and the objects and the models. And they were really, really, really patient with me. And I did like hundreds and hundreds of scans then. And back then I was also kind of infamous about making pranks on my colleagues and friends. And they were thinking I will come back to them with some shitty pranks, and nothing happened like that. But I'm really grateful that they did it with me. And at that time, I also started delving a bit more deep into the culture, the local culture of it, Oktoberfest and like other things. And so over the course of time, we have changed the way we communicate, share, talk, and write to an individual or to a community. Instead of using our voice or communication, we steadily started sharing pictures, videos, experiences, music, or our own creations and someone else's interpretations, using the internet and the power of social media tools. This gives us a totally different way of looking at the world. Many times the design proposals are all about conveying your idea and making sure that the entire room gets it. The information needed to be more immersive. We changed the way we interact with our surroundings and our memories. As you all know, that cameras were the extension of our eye, but smart devices slowly became the extension of ourselves. We don't just want to record our memories, we want to share them. We want to revisit them with our friends and families. Picture is worth 1,000 words, but we don't need pictures and words anymore. It's not sufficient to convey our ideas. So immersion is worth 1,000 sensations. Social media has changed the way we look, feel, and remember the surroundings. Ancient buildings took hundreds of years to achieve a degree of popularity, but in the age of social media, it takes a matter of weeks, days, or hours to reach the same amount of viewership. So this brings me to the next project, which is Porsche Guideline, which I developed with Mutabor brand spaces. It was an ad agency, design, visual design, animation, and motion design, etc. It was like a very multi-disciplinary design firm. So the first project that they gave me was the Porsche. It was a challenging project, I would say. So Porsche was strategizing how to cater to the new audience. So they had like a very old school approach to go forward to the customers and sell their products. And as you can see, this is the old building of Porsche, the old showrooms, and it's okay, but it's they wanted to make it a bit more dynamic and a bit more appealing to the new crowd and the next generation. So we had to make it look like that. This is our proposal. So it was also one of those firms who threw a VR headset at me and said, "Hey, Ritayan, show me what you can do with it." So I had like this basic hold of real-time visualization from my previous office, which I learned by myself with YouTube tutorials, and some friends helped me out eventually. And I had a basic idea about gamification of architectural scenes, thanks to Ibrahim and a couple of other friends, Andreas and Pablo. But I always thought, why a heavy machine where two small screens are so close to your eyes are relevant in architecture? It didn't really fit with me, but I think that changed very fast. So several of the Porsche showrooms are planned and designed across the globe, including cities like Palm Springs, Waigaochiao, Shanghai, Dortmund, etc. The architectural concept of Porsche Center is based on a very modular system. So in this slide, what you can see, this is the basic volume of old Porsche building. So they had this black box, which is kind of like not for the public, and the transparent one is for open to public, and where you have like all the experiences with the cars. And this is how the entire building looked like. And they had this transparent facade in the ground level, and from first floor onwards, it was like completely opaque. And they had this light slot that cuts through the building and allows the natural light into the building. And in the back of the building, they had this canopy structure where you bring your cars when you need to make some servicing or anything, like a repair or anything, and you park it here, and from here they collect it and take it inside to the workshop and bring it back here, and you take it from here. And this is the showroom gallery and vehicle display, and they have a lot of transparent elements in Porsche. They wanted to make it like a bit more opaque. So this one, it's like they call it the kitchen. So you have this window where when the customers come, they see how they work in the workshops. They wanted to show the process and all that, but they didn't want them to interfere. So it was like a performance window. So this is the service and workshop area. So as I mentioned, the architectural concept is mostly like modular, and we had like several different modules with different themes. And we had this racing line that cuts through these modules, and it separates the entire volume into two equal parts. And in this racing line, like we had these cars, which is being placed in a very to mimic a scene in a race, something. And all these colors in the modules, it represents like they all had like different kinds of experiences, and it was talking about sustainability and electronic cars and like the new concept cars, etc., etc. So the entire floor plan is dissected into 3 meters by 3 meters grid. And once you incorporate the streets, this is like the central axis, the racing line, and we had like smaller streets, which is dissecting the entire floor into like different modules and different spaces. Mostly this is for like circulations, but also we wanted to use the circulation spaces to put some car models. So we had like enough space, like 6 meter space between in these streets. And most of the Porsche showrooms are always in the junction. They always take these kind of sites all over the world. They don't take any other sites. And mostly this is the entrance. And once you enter, you are directly in the racing line, and you start from the racing line, and then you decide to go wherever you want to go, to the workshop or to the office, and for everyone. So this is for the customers, the staff, workers, everyone. So these are different module concepts, like extra small, small, medium, and large. And these are the basic grids. And because we were having like different dimensions for the site all over the world, we had to do it in a very dynamic way that it is easy to change. And there shouldn't be any surprise when we are trying to build it. So this entire project is mostly about the guideline. We were defining the guideline for Porsche, how they should proceed for the next generation. So that's why we had to like make the entire package like this. This is the building for a typical site. It's pretty straightforward. And if the site is a little bit complicated with acute angles, it had to change accordingly. For obtuse, it had to change. So mostly, as you can see, how the racing lines and the modules and the side streets, how they are reacting to the site. It had to be completely contextual. Context was the god in this one. This is the site plan and the ground floor plan. You enter from here, you exit this way or that way, and this is the parking. And sometimes we had this smart chargers for electronic cars. So you bring your electronic cars and charge and then go. And you enter, and all these cars are posed like a racing line. And these are like separate modules and experiences. information sections, and this is the workshop area. Sorry, this is the canopy and also the workshop area. And this is the upper floor with the offices and some smaller experiences, and mostly these islands were joined by small bridges. So this is my first scene as a technical artist. This is my first virtual reality scene we developed for Porsche for the interior design. This space is called Werk 1. Werk 1 translate to like workshop 1 or something like that. So they wanted to show all the achievements what Porsche had over the years. So here in this corner, you can see all the trophies. And this corner is also very relevant because that holds the original brick from the first Porsche showroom that was built in Germany. So the building, I think it doesn't exist anymore, but they collected all the bricks and they showed it in all the showrooms all over the world. So they distributed all the bricks of the original building all over the world. So we had to make like a corner with the description of all these. So this space is also about like hangout and meetings together in a very casual settings. As you can see, there is a cafe and a lounge, and also a meeting table here. So we wanted to make it look as casual as possible. These are the different experiences, and this is a scene for a tech talk, which you can attend on site in the showroom. But if you can't, you can always download the app, Porsche app, and join it digitally. So it's a physical and digital event. We called it Phygital experience. So it was mostly about like catering to the new audience who are more digitized than the older ones, but we also wanted to keep the old ones, old clients, and the new ones. So it had to be speaking in both directions. This experience about the electronic performance and how Porsche is approaching this problem and sustainability, etc. And this is the handout lounge. So whenever you decide to buy a car, you come to this lounge, enjoy the setup, and then they deliver the car and you take it from here. And this is like the basic screen that shows you like the basic display and the information about the cars that you just bought. And the second part of this project, I think this is why they actually hired me, was the dynamic facade. It was also quite challenging because it had to be under the budget, and they also wanted to make it as futuristic as possible. And it need to be like a little bit cheaper than how it was initially intended. So the idea here was like, this is the Porsche old showroom, how it looked like, and we need to make it look like this or this. But very soon we realized that to remove all these panels, it's quite expensive. So what we decided to do is to put like metal frames in front of the facade and put the new facade on top of it. So this is how it looked like during the night, and this is the daytime visualization. And this is like the interim solution, how we could go if something goes wrong or something like that. So basic idea of the facade is like there are like scalable and constant parts. This part, as you can see, this is like scalable depending on the site where it is being built. So sometimes it's like just 2 panels, sometimes 4, or sometimes 6. And the height was also scalable. Sometimes it's each panel is 1 meter, and sometimes it's like 500 millimeters or something like that. And the width of the panels are always 3 meters, which has to go with this 3 meter by 3 meter grid in the floor plan that I explained before. So if the facade is cutting in one direction, in the bottom, it has to continue in the floor. That was the idea. So these are some of the tests that we did with parametric tools. So as you can see, we had to test like a lot of the times, like which is like really working. And the most complicated part are these transition elements here. These are like very straightforward, it's fine. But the transitions, it was, first, it is like really expensive to build, but also it was rotating in different angles. So in the bottom, the angle is the highest. And as you go up, it's like slowly getting straight and straight. So the angle is like changing every time you move up. So this is like the basic section, how it reacts. And that's the panels with 940 millimeters and with 32 degrees of angles. And also the angle is changing from here to here. So it was twisting. What you can see here is like a straight facade, which is being twisted, but it gets complicated. It was because it was not only twisting, it was also bending in the same time, which I'll show you later. So these are mostly the 3 options we came up with, which was sort of working. So the problem here, what we experienced was the mold was more expensive than the facade elements. So each mold costed, well, the cost of each mold was like 15,000 euros, and the facade elements were 5,000 euros. So it was like 3 times more expensive to make the mold than the facade. These are like the details. So the idea also was to put like an LED strip under each of the panels. This is how it looked. These are the prototypes that we made before we implemented it on the building and on the site. And this is the detail. So here is the LED strip. And here we had this like a reflective surface. So in the beginning, we wanted to have like LED all over, but we decided it's a little bit too bright. So the reflection did all the job. So it was under the budget and it worked pretty well. It's a sectional view of the twisted facade. And as you can see here, we had 2 surfaces which is reacting to the twist and the bend. And when you are doing it in digital tools, it's very easy to see these 2 are twisting in different angles. But we didn't want to have like 2 different molds to produce these. So what we did is like copy the top one and make it the bottom one. So it was like a trick my boss came up with. Genius. And this is the VR project, the experience we designed for our client. I think this one was about the Waigaochiao site in China. So mostly this project was supposed to be built in China, in California, many parts in Germany. And we were mostly giving them like all these guidelines of the new design styles and how to cater to the new trend, etc. And this is the daylight system. And how it is reacting to the evening and the night and all that. And these are the visualizations of 2 buildings in 2 different locations. This is for Palm Springs, California, and this is Waigaochiao in China. As you can see, it's looking very similar, but it's not exactly the same. It always need to respect the site. And this is the parametric script that I wrote for the facade. And the first one, I think this one was our first experiment with the new design style. And I think for that one, we didn't use any parametric tools. We did it manually with Rhino. And always in these twists and bends, there was always this kink. It was not very smooth. And there was always this angle, and you see it. It's when you are a designer, you see all these little details which didn't really work out. But for the later buildings, for example, this Waigaochiao and in Dortmund, we started using Grasshopper for that. And as you can see, these are like really smooth. It's like a real continuation of these lines, and we were pretty happy with the final results. So the next project is Volkswagen. It's kind of like very interesting, because right when I was thinking that I escaped the Vastu system of Indian society, it came back to me in a different form. All the brands come with their guidelines for design, and one such brand was Volkswagen. You cannot just put an object in space just because you think it's a good idea. It had to abide by the rules that has been made decades ago, or it has to be made by your client or what they want to approach in the future. So the good news was my job was to help them change and evolve. So the first is like the Shanghai Auto Show in 2019. So this was one of the transitioning projects and one of the last projects they wanted to do with their old brand style. So as you can see, this is the old logo that they were still using. And they wanted to use the old and iconic white frames to bound the information and their product, including the text, graphics, etc. And this was like a LED screen where you have all the information about the products. And sometimes in these frames, they have like a lounge sofa, like setup or bench to sit and relax and interact with the cars, of course. And this is the basic planning. So how it worked was the top part here is the services, the office, and the coffee, cafeteria, the bar area, etc. And these two were the experience rooms here. And they had this central stage. This is the central LED, and that here is the stage here. And they had 3 moving discs for each of these new cars that they wanted to project. And the idea was to have all the cars and the product radiate outwards. So it was like a radial design style. You can see it over here. We had these guidelines, and along these lines, we had these design frames and the screens all together. And in between, we had these car models and some setups for like information panels and LED screens, etc. And these are the experience rooms. And also in the ceiling, we had these huge kind of like LED screens, which was also connected with the central LED screen. So this was also a smart approach because it allowed many of the customers to stand in front of it and make some gestures and positions, and the screen was giving them some artistic response to it, which I'll show in a moment. This is the lounge area, lounge setup. So here you can see that there were like many performances which was happening in front of the screen, and the visual performance was also giving like a singular approach for like a singular experience in general. So when you are in there, you are like actually looking at the performance. And here, these are the normal people. They were simply interacting with the screens, and it made them a little bit more engaging in general. And here, what you can see is all these screens are also interacting with the central panels. And this basically shows after the design was complete, how it looked. This is the first capture that we did. You can see all these floating panels and how these lounge areas is interacting with the cars. And we had these information panels right next to them. And this is one of my favorite part of the experience design. So here you paint on the cars. It gives you this screen, and you use this screen to paint on these cars, and you make your own artworks. And you can see it in real time. And then you scan the QR code, go outside of it, and make a print out of it. And it basically gives you like a sticker. And you take the sticker with you. Really cool. So the next one was with the new brand design. As you can see, the logo has changed, and we had to help Volkswagen to use the new guidelines. In this one, we didn't do the guidelines, but we were helping them build their first project with the new guidelines they already did. But for Porsche, we had this experience with guidelines, so we were pretty okay with go ahead, and it was kind of like very predictable in the beginning. So the new brand design of Volkswagen, which was launched in IAA 2019, introduced elements such as like vibrant sky. Vibrant skies are like mostly these floating elements, and also in the ceilings. The Messe, which is the German translation for exhibition, was designed around ID walk. So this is your spawn point here. You start here. And that's also the newest car, and it's pretty digitized in their approach. And you go up the stairs, and this is the information wall, we call it. And you have like all the history and everything here. You go up the stairs and you go ahead, and this is another ID model and other information panels, and you walk through the art installations, etc. And you go down, and this is your lounge setup. And this is the central stage. You walk through the lounge and you go up again, and this is the cafeteria. And you walk through the lounge area again, and this is the two other ID models. Mostly all these ID models were having like different characteristics. Some of them were like electronic, some of them had this smart windshield. So mostly these cars, they had like this need for speed approach. I don't know how many of you are gamers. Like in Need for Speed, when you play, it tells you like a turn left or turn right with different graphics. So in the smart screens, they had these like different graphics. You mostly it brings you to your destination. You put it in the GPS and it gives you the way, turn left and right, etc. And then you come down here, and this is the staircase and kind of like a setup for like a open air theater. And this is for like small tech talks and some events, etc. And then you end up in your spawn point here in the beginning. So that was the overall approach. And in between these ID walk approach, we had like several different experiences about the sustainability, V-concept, etc., etc. And here we had all the services in the upper right corner. And in the ground floor, we had all the offices, and in the upper floor was mostly dominated by VIP section, meeting rooms, and cafeteria for general public. And mostly this volume is connected to the this part via a bridge. So it has like 2 levels here, and under the bridge, under this entire surface, we had like different experiences and different Volkswagen models were being shown. These are some of the pictures after it was being built. This is one of the installations I really liked. So mostly it's like a rectangular panel, and this is what we call the vibrant sky. So you can see how Volkswagen changed from their older concept into the new one. It's like all the floating skies and elements are like all around, and they don't have any more of these iconic Volkswagen panels anymore, which is like and radiating outwards. And we had this rectangular panel, and this screen here, it's kind of movable along this panel. So as you move, you see the X-ray view of the cars, and this shows like all the different elements, how the fuel is being used and how little the fuel is being used. They want to go like sustainable and smart, etc. And gives you all the information. And here you can see the guys, they're moving the screen. And this is one of the VR experiences we did for Volkswagen. It was in very, very early stage. And as you can see, there are like some pink lights and materials. Back then, I think VR was still not very suitable for architectural presentations. These were like full of bugs. You can see many flickers and all that. Today, we came a long way from that time. And this brings us to the next experience. This is the R1 model. It was a racing car. And this was one of my favorite installations, but unfortunately it didn't see the day of light of the day. And yeah, it's a shame. And this was the first 2 nights of IAA 2019 in Frankfurt. And after that, I decided to go to my old office because they needed some assistance to build a ship. It's called Royal Caribbeans. And they wanted my help for this overlook area. So what they wanted to develop is like a space, a lounge, and a hangout space where they should have like a really good view of the ocean. This is a ship project, and they gave me like one section of it to do the interior design of it, and they wanted to go very organic. in this section. So as you can see that we have like many different pods which goes in different levels. Sometimes they're like almost on the ground, then it goes up, and they're all in like different levels here. And you go up the stairs here to this central bar, and this is the highermost. And in total, we had like 5 different pods in different heights. And mostly the idea was to capture the vast ocean with its full glory. So this is the plan. This is the entrance of this section, and these are 3 6-seater pods, and we had 2 8-seater pods here, which is like in the upper level. And this is how it looks. Unfortunately, this project didn't go on for so long. And talk about the wrong timing. This was the early 2020, and we all know like the COVID situation we had, and all these projects didn't really proceed much further. Now they are trying to build it, but back then it had to stop. And unfortunately, I couldn't really continue with the same pace. And in my next section, I'm going to talk about mostly how COVID impacted in general my approach to different designs, and it's sort of like inspired to go in a little bit different direction. So I started making some architectural competitions. This is like a cemetery design, mostly inspired by the traditional Latvian symbols and their culture. Mēnes and Zarktis. Mēnes in Latvian culture stands for the cycle of life, creation and destruction, and natural forces of life, etc. Zarktis represents serpent goddess or general health and well-being. So mostly this is like how Mēnes looks like, and I mirrored it to make like a continuous system, and I combined it with this serpent-like Zarktis symbol. So it gave me this infinity kind of circulation movement, and through these like smaller spaces here. So in 3D, it kind of looked like this. And it's like a one continuous loop that goes through the volume. And this is the site here. Mostly it's a cemetery project. So they had like all these containers filled with ashes, and they wanted like a landscape project where people go and have peace with themselves and their loved ones. So the design of the cemetery opens itself to its user to mourn their loved ones. Its design is pretty much open. The symbols are juxtaposed around each other to create an opening in the landscape, forming an infinity loop, unifying the interior and exterior in one infinity movement. And I wanted to make it look a little bit more like a pyramid, but still respecting the traditions of Latvia. This is the ground floor plan and the site plan in general, the roof. And in ground floor, we have office and some interior spaces for the niche. And these are the elevations and the sections. And this is a small video that explains a little bit about the design. So the next up is some of my artworks, which I didn't really do for last, I don't know, 7, 8 years. Back then it was 2020, and some of my friends and my dad especially, they encouraged me to go ahead with that. And these are some of the works I created during lockdown. And eventually I also managed to incorporate some of these concepts into architecture and some of the interior designs that I did at that time. And when I moved to Berlin, I managed to convince one of the curators of a gallery, it's called the Indie Heads, to make an exhibition for it. So mostly I was exhibiting most of my ink works and the digital artworks and some NFTs, etc. And the story is also not very complete without mentioning the new technologies. The metaverse is coming up, the NFT and the blockchain impact of architecture and the digital art in general. So remember when I scanned my friends and myself in 2017, finally saw the light of the day when I started making like digital artworks out of it. It took me a couple of years to make them look like that. So mostly the idea behind it is the fight within you when you are making like an important decision about what's happening around you. So this is another digital art called The Dragon's Egg, and it's completely done in Rhino, some parametric tools, scripting, and Unreal Engine, some other game engines, etc., and some visualization tools. It's like a mixture of everything. And feel free to scan the QR codes if you want to know more about it. I'm not going to go too much into the details about it. And this is another architecture come digital art approach. And I always call it like a metaverse object. So it's mostly a pixel engram series I was developing in 2021. And last week, not 3 weeks before I had this exhibition. And that was the first time I made it like more public. And this is a pretty new digital art, which I did, I don't know, maybe 2-3 weeks ago. It's mostly 3 digital sculptures, which is trying to explain the volume if, or like a situation, if the water tries to join with the sky, what could be the volume like? What should it look like? And just to mention, this is also one of my first sound mixing projects. Before I didn't do anything with the music or anything. I'm trying to experiment a bit more about how storytelling could improve with combination with digital art and architecture and in general. And the next step for this project is about like interactive digital art experience, which I think maybe in 2 or 3 months I'm going to exhibit in Berlin with some smart screens and NFTs. And most of the NFTs that I showed before, it's done with Ethereum platform. And you can always find it in OpenSea and Verify and other platforms. So next up is the AI tools. Remember the sketches that I showed. Most of the sketches are done using like prompts from internet, from friends, from my parents, that I received some word prompts and some text. And I was like mostly combining all these things to make those sketches and artworks to make something abstract out of it. Now we are living in an age where you can write or imagine some text prompts and you don't really need to create any outcome out of it. The AI tools does it for you. But I think the best way that you can use all the artificial intelligence tools is when you also support it with your sketches. You put your sketches, help the AI tools to get the results that you are expecting to get. So these are some of the sketches I did with the help of AI tools, Midjourney, etc. You can see it has also like a lot of architectural influences, and many of my friends, they simply put like the names of the artists or names of the architects to receive like some desired results. But I think it's kind of like a little bit a lazy approach. If you guys are playing with it, I encourage you not to do that. It's better to articulate yourself and your design or the artwork that you are trying to produce and not use like other artists' names or their styles in the prompt. Make it your own and try to articulate all the complex shapes and geometries. It helps you imagine and present your work in general. So that's pretty much my journey. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for listening. I hope it was not too long. Thank you very much.
It was a wonderful presentation, Ritayan. And your journey is like eye-opener. And I was very keen, like Porsche. They themselves are like known to be the designers, right?
Yeah.
One of the best design-oriented company like Apple, and you have designed for them. So
Yes.
that was very revealing. So we have an architect who actually does work for Porsche. So that was very good and very interesting also, like how architecture can make a difference, right? Like how the company brands itself, and architecture is one of the most important. Like in any even say 5-star hotel also, it's about the decor and the architectural spaces, the intangible feelings that are created by architects. That is what a brand is, not the brick and mortar. And that you have actually keenly done that work. And even your Doha project was very, very interesting. And the courtyards, the staircases, the way they looked, like very, very interesting. Hope it has been done. The whole project is completed.
I think it's still far from being complete. Because we were like fighting with the ministries and the authorities in general, and they were not really allowing to build that. And I think it's like maybe 7 years or something, and it's still under construction, and they're making a lot of trouble. I myself joined the project when it was already 5 years in development, and I worked there for like 2 years, and still it was really difficult to like convince them to do it.
Yes. No, all these what do you say struggles of an architect to actually look in real his designs, right? So that itself is a inspiring stories to talk about, and your stories are wonderful stories. The way, and from Chhattisgarh to Porsche, right? So,
from Bhubaneswar, you can say.
Yeah. No, actually, your school education, right? Chhattisgarh to definitely Bhubaneswar is the starting point, but the way you reach the Bhubaneswar is also important, isn't it? And everyone's story is very similar till architecture, and many of them join architecture with what do you say comfort. Actually, many of them don't have comfort joining architecture, whatever the reason, whether it is interest or knowing exactly what you are going to study, right? But architecture is like it actually pulls you in, and that's what has happened to you. And by the time you were in third year, you started liking architecture. That is what is interesting for me, because I tell my students every time, though, even the first semester students who just passed their 10+2, I tell them, see, for whatever reason you are here now, indulge in it, fall in love with architecture, because eventually you will fall in love. So do it little earlier, so that you don't have to repent. Okay, I lost 1 year. Like that shouldn't be there. So it's very fascinating journey.
I think it's very natural to doubt a bit, because I think in general architecture education is kind of very complicated, and the way it was being taught to me, I was not very convinced that I'm actually learning anything. But over the years, after 5 years graduating, I was really thankful to the teachers and also these seniors who helped me a lot.
Yes, that's what natural. That is natural. That is the reason. No, architecture seniors are important. Mentors are more important, and all the teachers know they take the role of mentor. Design studio is not teaching. It actually design studio is mentoring. So they try to figure out what you are thinking, and they try to prop your thought process. They try to give direction to you. So that is more of a mentoring. So that happens naturally in architecture education, and it's one of the best ways to learn, mentoring. And and you
in
have
Germany, there is a saying that there are 2 ways of learning. Either you go step by step, or you jump in the middle of the ocean and then start to learn how to swim. I think I kind of did both sometimes.
Yes. And definitely, many of our architecture young students, they think that programming, computers, technology, engineering, mechanics is not their cup of tea. But I think your interest in programming, C++, is that is where it started off, right? Parametric, modeling, animation, and all that is part of architecture, because for architecture, 4th dimension, time is very important. And that is what animation and all these about. And I also liked C++ when I learned it for the first time, and logic was the most important thing. So the simple programs, mathematical programs that we done, good. It was very
most of the programs, it's like whatever I learned over the years, it was not really necessary to learn to be an architect. I did it mostly because I was interested in it, and mostly many of my friend circles were tweaking all these things, and they were always talking about it, and I was always thinking maybe I'm missing out on something, so I was mostly experimenting all this.
Good. So nice of you giving so much of time for our students, and hopefully, I think your video in YouTube will get lot of views because the students who have not joined today, no. I think they would be. Okay. Yes, Snigdha?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if there are any questions from students, yeah, and thanks to Alaknanda.
Yes, yes. Many thanks to Alaknanda for having getting sir here on this platform. And sir, your journey, how you expressed in the storyboard which you showed throughout your presentation was really interesting and incredible. And like I was very fascinated and really loved all your works and all how you depicted and how you showcased. And
I'm glad you liked it.
yeah, not only me, everyone who were the part of this webinar have definitely liked it because it looks very interesting and very easy, but the amount of effort and the hard work and the brainstorming which goes around it, it's beyond words actually. So thank you so much for giving us this valuable session. It was very much needed. I'm very thankful to you, sir.
It was a great pleasure, and I hope it was not too long, the presentation.
No, it was fine, sir. Yeah. It was like we were just going with the flow. It's like you're saying, next we are going to say this. So it's like never ending. We want to know more. It's like a curiosity. Yes, what's coming next? What's coming next? So,
Yes.
Yeah, mostly my presentations are maximum like 15 to 20 minutes, but I think this is the first time I spoke, I don't know, maybe 1 hour or something. Hope it was entertaining enough.
Yes, definitely.
No, it was a lot of knowledge, not only entertainment, it was full of knowledge. And the exposure, your exposure, work exposure is great. Yeah.
We have, I think Usha ma'am wants to ask some question. We have Usha Mishra ma'am.
Hi, Ritayan.
Hi, Randani.
I'm very proud of you. And the mind-blowing designs, I can say that I have ever seen this kind of design. And God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Sir, this session has been recorded. It's recording actually. So I will be soon posting it on the YouTube link, which in our official Geetham School of Architecture page, so that you also have the access and everyone, like any views comes to it. So I would request students, if you have any questions or if you want to ask questions in the chat box, any queries, anything. Actually, comments have come, like one student, few students have said in the chat box, it's very amazing session. Actually, it is amazing. It's like way beyond words. And like there are so many things we as an architect can do. Not only like you were having the C++, how it will enhance you, and now you are like into that only as a computation designer, technical artist and all. And it's like a never ending session, like some kind of scope and all does develop, and so much of variety and all, and this metaverse thing which is coming into existence, it's really incredible. And we like there is lot to learn.
See, all these C++ and scripting and all that just came to me before I even started as an architect. So one of my professors once told me in Germany that if you like architecture, you bring your personality to it. So it just C++, it just transitioned into like some sort of an architectural language eventually. That was not initially my intention when I learned it. So you just bring your own stuff, whatever you like. And I think architecture is very flexible, and it always encourages your own interests. You
Yes.
can always bring things into it.
True.
And that makes it very unique and your own design. If any of you are like struggling with your design signature or something, I think don't be afraid to make mistakes. The mistakes, when you repeat it long enough, that becomes your signature.
Very well said, sir. Very well said. Yes, absolutely.
And we at Geetam, we try to give the best to students. So actually tomorrow and after tomorrow, we are having a SketchUp workshop for our students. Then we have a Revit, a architect, very senior architect who has been using Revit as a very effective tool. He's going to talk about Revit and the works that you have shown here. All these will definitely inspire our students. So thank you.
It's a great direction. I hope you guys will have fun. Don't take it too seriously. Just try to understand how it helps you.
Yes.
I will, sir, shall we, any questions or shall we conclude the session, sir?
Yeah, conclude the session.
Okay. I will still say that students, if they want to connect with you, I can, with your due permission, if you allow, I can share your email ID also, so that if they want to connect with you over mail, they can formally connect with you. So now it's time to conclude the session. So thank you for the vote of thanks by our director, sir, also. And as many webinars will be scheduled further in the upcoming months and in the upcoming weeks. So I would like to express my appreciation to all the participants and our guest speaker, especially our guest speaker, for being so kind and generous. And on behalf of Geetam School of Architecture, I would like to close my remarks and officially announce the end of webinar. Wishing you all the future prosperity. And yes, I further extend my gratitude to our esteemed speaker. And thanks to all our faculties and directors, sir, in the School of Architecture, Hyderabad and Visakhapatnam campus. Thank you for your attention. Stay safe, stay healthy. Signing off. This is Assistant Professor Snigdha Roy. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.